Irreverent, entertaining, cool. You're listening to LA Talk Radio.
Max and friends, he says what he wants, ain't holding nothing back. Got the recipe for life, and he's inspiring. He's not scared of any topic, from sextile to gossip. Listen and to hear what Max is dishing. LA Talk Radio, this is Max and Friends.
You've got a heart as vast as the sky. I lose myself and find myself inside your eyes. You've got a smile as bright as the sun. Yeah, you are the most beautiful light that I see. Baby, you're the one. And I don't mean the one like in the fairy tales. Like if you was a frog, I'd be scared as hell. And I will tell you to rip it up another tree. But you're not. And God, come here, kiss me, and whisper the secrets of the universe. So I can scribble down and say to me, my man first. But I will read you back your brilliance like some poetry. You are my modern happiness, come here on me. And all I wanna do is sing your love songs. All I wanna do is sing your love songs. But I wanna
All love songs. That was Ash Ruiz. The song Beautiful Light. I love my Ash. And I wanted to bring him into tonight's show, this morning show, this afternoon show, wherever you are. Thank you for tuning into Max and Friends, not only on LA Talk Radio, but on all podcasting platforms. I wanted to bring Ash in because last week, Simran was here and we talked about Ash and we talked about music and we talked about so many beautiful things where it was just such this heavenly flow, this divine flow of living, the 7 blessings of human experience. It was magical. We played the song Ancestors with Felisa Latin Soul at Felisa Latin Soul. You have to go follow her, please. I know you have to is not anything you really have to do, but from my heart to yours, follow at Felisa Latin Soul. The song Ancestors, beautiful song. It became my mantra for last week. I was playing it like every day. And I just want to share with you a moment that happened after the song, after the show that I heard from last week with Simran. We talked about so many beautiful things, the 7 blessings of human experiences. The book is called Living, the 7 blessings of human experiences. So it was last week that I woke up after this like really amazing dream. And in the dream, my grandfather Oscar came to me, and it was like super, super powerful because in this dream, you have to realize I never met my grandfather, Oscar. And what was so amazing about him is that while I've been writing the Delmonico Way, the cookbook, which is pre-sale now, you can go get it. I woke from this dream feeling that I was like spending time with him, not just having conversation with him like the book has been the process of, but spending time with him. And it's the first time ever. It was literally his birthday was June 4th is the day he was born and died, and my niece Lily was born. And it was on the heels of his birthday, and it was on the Sunday night that we were just about to air Max and Friends. I woke up, we talked about ancestors, and in that dream, Oscar Tucci, my grandfather, graced me. And we were in this palazzo in Italy, and it was like really intense. And I saw him, and I didn't want to approach him yet. And I went into the kitchen of all places and started weeping. And then I went to him and I held his hand. I said, no. And he said, Max, do you remember that jacket that you asked me about if you should wear? I said, no. He goes, know this, I'm always with you. I'm always with you. And I woke up from that dream like on cloud, a million, quadrillion, bazillion. It was so beautiful. Share with me your dreams at Max Tucci on Instagram and Twitter. Hashtag Max and Friends Dreams or just Max and Friends. I want to know about your dreams, and I want to know that what have you seen in your mind that you've created in your reality. Where are you in living? Are you living or are you being? Are you both? Are you knowing? These are the three books that Simran has written: Living, Being, and Knowing. They're beautiful trilogy. You're going to find them more on her Twitter and Instagram. IG is IMSIMRAN 1111 and 1111 underscore magazine on Twitter. It's Simran SINGH 1111. Go to Max and Friends. Go to my place right here at Max Tucci. Click on the picture. You'll see all the tags there. Follow them, love them, learn about them, buy the books, get into it, because Simran is not only a mystic, an artist, a mentor. She's a publisher of 1111 magazine, host of 1111 Talk Radio, the author of multiple Gold Award winning books, including Conversations with the Universe, Your Journey to Enlightenment, Your Journey to Love, and of course, this trilogy of self-realization books, which are Living, the 7 Blessings of Human Experience, Being, the 7 Illusions that Derail Personal Power, Purpose, and Peace, and the third one, Knowing, the 7 Human Expressions, the 7 Human Expressions of Grace. Of grace. Today, tonight, this now moment, how are you? I see you, I hear you, you matter, I love you. Thank you for tuning in to Max and Friends. 14 years we're here. If it's your first time joining us, welcome to this now moment. Where you are right now is exactly where you're supposed to be. So let's talk about being. Simran's going to be here in just one moment. I want to know, how are you being? How you being? How you be? Do you believe that there are 7 illusions that derail personal power, purpose, and peace? Are you asking me what all this means? Well, let's take a breath into this now moment and be present. Be present with me, be present here, and take this moment for yourself, for you. Acknowledge yourself. How is your body feeling? How is your being feeling? How are your fibers feeling? How are your cells feeling? How are your minds feeling? How are your tongues feeling? Your body, your whole being. How are you? Give yourself a hug. Acknowledge yourself. Thank yourself for this now moment. Thank your body for bringing you to here right now. And wherever there's any discord or dis-ease or any kind of uncomfortableness, let it go, release, be here in this present. In your journey in life, do you feel that there's been moments where you've been derailed? Do you believe that there's been moments where you've been, maybe you were detoured in a different direction? Well, like I said just a few moments ago, where you are right now is exactly where you're supposed to be. Simran is joining me, the mystic, the artist, the mentor, the grace, the divine being herself, one who has beautifully figured out her purpose, her heart virtue, to share it with us. That no matter what life brought her through, there's that saying, when you're going through hell, don't stop. She didn't stop. And the gifts, because she didn't stop, are ours to unwrap every day. Books, magazines, podcasts, conversations. Simran, welcome back to Max and Friends.
Oh, it's a delight to be here. You are such a light. Your exuberance, your energy, your alignment, your expression. I have to celebrate and honor you, Max, for who you are and what you do, and the joy you bring to people, the way you open their hearts and their minds and their souls and their bodies. It's just extraordinary.
Thank you. I'm just taking that moment to receive all of that. And you know what I love about life is that like attracts like. So what you see in me is a reflection of who you are. And I feel the same way towards you, that you bring so much joy, purpose, understanding. Understanding is beautiful. And also knowing that we have these blessings in life, that we have these illusions in life, that we have these expressions in life, that we have these experiences in life. So thank you for saying yes to the calling. Thank you for saying yes to, when the divine spoke to you, you could have said, oh, hell no, and run the other direction.
Trust me, I wanted to a few times.
And you went through it. Last week, you told us you were in that moment where you were driving your car and you just were weeping because you dropped your beloved off at rehab. And those moments when you saw everything crystal clear, clarity. You had clarity. You saw the magazine covers. You saw it all because you are the creator of your reality. So before we get into the second book, Being, the 7 illusions that derail personal power, purpose, and peace, let's just go back into that one moment for those who missed last week's show. And tell us why you said yes to the calling.
I said yes to the calling because I'm more devoted to my soul than I am to my ego.
Boom. That was a great show. Wonderful night. And that's a wrap. Isn't that the simplicity of it all, though?
Yeah, yeah. And there is such a distinction between the two. It will send you down two different paths based
Yeah.
on what you choose. And the struggle will be far greater on one path than the other.
Mm. Mm, mm, mm. Well, thank you for saying yes. Last week's show, it just was such a beautiful energy. It was such a beautiful vibration. And the song Ancestors, I've had so many DMs at Max Tucci, so slide into them. I had so many DMs saying how much they love the show. They love the conversation. They were excited to be a part of today's conversation, part 2. And they loved Felicia Latin Soul and Felicia Latin Soul. She just, that ancestor song, it was a whole new level. That even to the point, I want to share this with you, Simran, and to all of our listeners tonight and this morning, this afternoon, wherever you all are, that Felicia is going to be doing the new intro jingle for Max and Friends. So
that's fantastic.
It's fun, yeah. So it was like a powerful show last week. It's going to be a powerful one tonight. It's a life class, listeners. Get ready to open your ears, your mind, your hearts, your mouth, your eyes, your tears. Open up to this present moment. Let it all go. Relax your shoulders. Know that you are going to have a life class that is literally going to shake the foundation of which you stand upon. And maybe it's going to like just be that little needle of that paradigm that's going to shift you into greater joy. So let's get into the trilogy. Living, we spoke about last week, the 7 blessings of human experience. Why did you start with living?
Because living is who we are. It's who we're showing up as, that we know ourselves to be. It is the persona, the identity. It is the different experiences that we're walking through in this lifetime. It is our question as to why, and it is our most often unconscious and ego desires that are ruling us. And we have to start where we are. Each of these books is an aspect of our own multidimensionality. And when we really get to know who we are being in every moment on all levels, we'll start to understand not only why our lives look the way they do or what we're drawing in, but we'll really start to understand why the things are happening in the world that are happening and how much of a role we play unconsciously, consciously, all the way around to creating each and every incident, from the most awful, horrific to the greatest, most beautiful. And it's all because of our multidimensional being.
It is all because of that. Now, speaking of being, the second book of the trilogy, being the 7 illusions that derail personal power, purpose, and peace. Last week, it was funny. I jumped off like right into let's do that. And Spirit was like, put the brakes on. No, started living. And so we started with living. The books are all available now. The first 2 are available right now, correct?
Correct. The first 2 are available now. They're out and they're doing amazing and really impacting people in a very deep way, because they're the conversations that we often don't go as deeply to. And it's that soul conversation that we have to have with ourselves.
I love the soul conversation. So let me ask you, that was a great point. Why don't we have those conversations?
We hide from our power. We really do. As much as we want the power, as much as we want to know all of who we are, there's a part of each and every one of us that's truly afraid of seeing the immensity of who we are and truly understanding that infinity means everything. And for us to recognize ourselves as everything is too huge for the small mind, the ego mind, to even comprehend.
That was an moment right there. We hide from our power. Gordana Bernat, who's a dear friend of mine from Oprah Super Soul 100, we have conversations all the time. And when the realization, and when she says to me, she loves that I say, I am of the I am. And that realization that I have, knowing that I am of the I am, it allows me to be in this moment, knowing that I'm not hiding from my power, knowing that I don't need to hide from my power, knowing that I was not built to break, knowing that this moment is eternal and everlasting, just like my soul is. And so I want to be in that place of happiness. And I know so many of our listeners tonight, Simran, want to be in that place of happiness. But there are those 7 illusions that derail us, that derail our personal power, our purpose, and peace. For those that have been derailed, what is the first thing you tell them before we get into the 7 illusions?
That we have to understand that being is far more important than anything that we do, and that being has many levels to it, but we're only conscious of the very superficial surface levels, because when we look at that immensity of power that we have to be willing to not only embrace the highest light, but the darkest depths. And the problem is we use our ego to determine what we think infinity is, or immensity of power is, or even what God is. And the ego has no clue. It's the one that's been trying to control us and keep us small. So to go beyond that means to shatter the entire ego and allow ourselves to be more than who we are.
Indeed. And last week we spoke about one of the 7 blessings of human experiences is that darkness. And I tell you, I had DMs where people are like, they just couldn't agree with it. And it's okay, because there's going to be that moment when you'll be like, oh, I understand now what it is. I love this saying, are you a human being or are you a human doer? And there's this duality in are we being, but as you're saying, beings have so many dimensions. So give us some of the facets of being and what it means to actually be in that being moment.
So we can talk about being as an aspect of stillness, which is what the mind or most people make up that being is. I'm just going to go be for a while. I'm going to sit still. I'm going to meditate.
Be still, right? The Bible says be still and know.
Yeah, that's what most people, when they think about being, that's where they go to. But then we can also aspire to embody being, all caps, which is higher power and presence. And that means that we are this state of being that is in constant motion, constant creation, whether we're sitting still or whether we're moving, whether we're thinking or whether we're meditating. There's an aspect of being that is total creative capacity. And then there is this third state of being, which is all lowercase, that is always operating. And it is operating at the subconscious level. It is the animalistic, raw, monstrous nature of being. It is this subculture within each and every one of us that also creates some of the most depraved, horrific, and horrible situations that we've had. I kind of wonder if we were delayed in this conversation because we kind of had to get into a specific incident that took place in our world, the shooting at a school. Or we look at the things that are going on in the world where other people are getting hurt in the Ukraine, or many of the other incidences that take place on this planet. And when we want to embrace our infinite self, our wholeness, we have to understand that wholeness is light and dark, up and down, left and right. And so to embrace that wholeness does mean the full bandwidth of light, which includes darkness. Darkness is just another version of light.
Oh, absolutely. And to be able to experience the light, we have to experience the darkness, or we would always be in the light not knowing what the light really is. It goes for happiness. In order to experience happiness, we go through and experience sadness or moments of. There's that beautiful duality, the balance, the yin and yang of life, the darkness and the light of life. Being. So why is it that you chose, when you did this trilogy of living, being, and knowing, that you made these 3 words all capital?
Because that is the highest octave that we can rise into and that we need to. On a very subtle level, I think I was born to write these 3 books, that this was my life's work. Because when 1111 magazine came into the vision that I had, the byline underneath it was devoted to the journey of the soul. But there were 3 words underneath the 1111 that I saw on the magazine cover, and they were living, being, and knowing. I never knew that 15 years later I'd be writing 3 books called Living, Being, and Knowing. But I encountered everything that I've written about here, and particularly being was what was most fascinating to me, because as I sat through this very dualistic, hard human experience that I was going through, that was rampant with grief, with sadness, with anger, with rage, with all of these things that I was feeling inside, trying to work through a personal situation that I was having. what I began to notice were these many aspects within myself. And I became horrified, Max, because I started to notice an aspect of being that is equal to some of the most horrific things that we are on this planet. And I thought, wow, if that's what's been buried inside of me, it's been buried inside of everybody. And we're not willing to see it. We want to just talk about the light. We want to just talk about the positivity and the goodness. But that is spiritual bypassing. Because until we can find the compassion and the love for that part of ourselves that could hurt so deeply, that could commit something, an act of violence, that could think a negative thought, that could even harbor any sort of resentment or jealousy or anger or rage, until we can see that from a place of loving kindness, there is no way we can shift this world, because we cannot extend that same compassion and love and kindness to those outside of us. And it is only from that place of neutrality and equanimity that we can change this world. And that has to begin inside the self first. Because if we cannot hold that degree of self-love, then there's no way we can have connection and unity with anything outside of us.
You know, my smile is from ear to ear, and it brings me back to the Michael Jackson song, I'm starting with the man, woman in the mirror. I'm asking him to make a change. Change doesn't change until you change, listeners. Are you willing to make the change? Are you willing to take off those Band-Aids of life and get into that cut, that nasty, gross place that needs to be healed, that needs to be rinsed out and cleansed with love, so that you don't have to wear these Band-Aids anymore, where you could rip them off and you could be in this moment of being alive, being present, being here, knowing that every derailment brought you to this now moment, knowing that every single experience is not wasted, and knowing that right now where you are is where you're supposed to be, that your personal power, purpose, and peace are stronger than any circumstance you're going through. Let's get into the 7 illusions that derail personal power, purpose.
Absolutely. I'd love to share.
Tell me.
Yeah. I'd love to share, being, it engages that bold and courageous conversation that every person has to engage right now. And it points not only to how you're being and I'm being, but how we and they
effectively
are being in every aspect of our lives that affect this world. And so the details of our lives are going to be different, but the ripples and the energetic impact is very much the same. So taking this radically honest view of our humanity, of our codependency, of our conditioning, of our collective codependence versus our conscious interdependence determines whether this world moves towards unending destruction or a genuine renewal. And so igniting that new world order requires that we first look at our self-absorbed and self-obsessed tendencies. And we're all a little bit self-obsessed if we look at how the world is operating right now. Yes. And that's the first truth we have to tell. This is about radical truth telling about every state of conditioning that we have experienced that have turned us into who we are as a species that is aimed towards destroying each other, rather than a species that was designed to commune together and love each other.
That's the beauty of it. And that's the reality of it too. When you look at nature, right? I love nature as a reference. I can look out and I can see, there's that song from Pocahontas, right? Where it's like, how can you paint with all the colors of the wind, right? Yeah. And it goes like, the otter is my friend, and we're all just here, in this place. And it's just so true that everything around us is like rising up to meet us. When you look at the birds and when you look at animals, you can see the lions and the zebras in Africa. They're like co-creating life together. Of course, then there's the reality of food and hunger, but they're always like, when you see them in National Geographics, they're together. All species are together, and they're not always all fighting, So how do we get to that place of being where I want to talk about these 7 illusions, because here, I know that time is the biggest illusion.
Yes.
And so that's kind of like the 8th illusion. The 8 illusions is
well,
time.
Actually, time is my first illusion. It is the illusion of time.
There we go. Now, I just want to be very transparent, because I love being transparent. the majority of times when I do interviews, listeners, I don't read the books right off the bat. Not often, because I want to be able to walk through this experience with you together. And I want you to, if I know more than you, then it's like the curiosity in my being isn't so like, searching. So I don't always read the books. These two books I have not read yet. They are on order. I'm getting them. I'm going to read them after the show, but I want you to know that too, listeners. So as we're learning together, as Isabel Mara taught us on a couple shows ago, we're all still learning. And this is why I love doing the show this way, because I get to learn with you, the listeners. So the 7 illusions that derail personal power, purpose, and peace. Number 1, as we just learned, is time. Fill us in.
It is the illusion of time. In each of these illusions, it is for us to cross the bridge from the illusion to a new and true reality. And so the illusion of time is one of the most powerful because we get caught up in the emotional obsessions. That is that realm where we constantly go into the past or we go into the future. And it has everything to do with slothfulness. That is the vice that is attached to time. And slothfulness has to do with our unwillingness to truly align and stand up in the truth of who we are as infinite source and true creative capacity. So it is our laziness, our slothfulness that slips us into these distractions of mind and these different things that pull us out of alignment rather than that claiming of that personal power. And it's so easy to get caught up in time. It is what most of our conversations end up being about or stemming from, rather than being in the presence of now.
Isn't that beautiful? Well, speaking of being in the presence right now, here's what I know what we're going to do. We're going to play a song. You've requested it again because you fell in love with it from last week. We're going to play Ancestors. And when we get back, we have 6 more illusions that we need to discuss. So take this minute to just be with yourself. To really, if you feel that you're going into this flow with us, we welcome you to stay here. If you feel like, whoa, this is too much for me right now, come back. Or if you feel like you need to take a break, we're going to take one with you right now here on Max and Friends, because the song we're playing is, I'm telling you, my anthem about ancestors from Felisa Latin Soul. Go right now and follow her at FELISA Latin Soul, Ancestors on Max and Friends. Take some time to think about yours and join us in just a couple minutes.
Oh, I will not fear. I will not fear, no, no. Guide me, Father, come find me. Find me, Mother, come guide me. Show me, Father, come show me. Lead me, Mother, just lead me home. Father, can you take me to a higher place so I can meditate? I'm feeling so lost, but you paid the cost for my survival. Trying to be born again, forgive me for my sins. Guide me, Father, come find me. Oh yeah, find me, Mother, come guide me. Enséñame, show me, Father, come show me. Oh yeah, lead me, Mother, just lead me home. Mother, will you guide my way? Help me to elevate.
LA Talk Radio and all podcasting platforms. This is Max and Friends. That was Ancestors by my girl, Lisa Latin Soul. Follow her on Instagram. Love her there. And tell her how much you love the song. Let her know. Encourage her as she encourages you. Speaking of encouragement, tonight we're talking about so many things: living, being, knowing. Right now, the 7 illusions that derail personal power, purpose, and peace with Simran. Go follow her now too at IAMSIMRAN1111 and at 1111_magazine on the Instagram. So go show some love there and show some support as well. So we talked about the illusion of time. We have 6 more illusions that derail personal power, purpose, and peace. And the second one is?
The second one is the illusion of duality. And that is what we get caught into once we get hooked up into time. We believe in the contrast as contrast and separation and two, rather than realizing it's all one. It is all wholeness. It is all part of the same story, that it is just vibration and frequency that is fluctuating. And in this world, at this day and this time, every experience that happens, rather than the judging mind looking at it, what we are here to realize is it is the equilibration of energies from many times, from long times ago, in terms of all the things that have taken place. And so we can't just look at an incident from face value, Max, because it is an accrual of energy that is trying to rebalance that causes certain things to happen. And the human mind can't comprehend it, particularly when we see things that are really sad and traumatic or horrific that take place. But from the big picture of energy and infinity, it is simply energy equilibrating itself.
Oh, wow. So how long did it take you to figure this all out?
You know, I sat still for a long time. And when you sit still and really watch the world, all of these things start to truly come to light. And I think that that's why I wrote these books is I don't know that everyone has the amount of time that I took to sit this still. But this will guide people to those places of awareness within themselves so that they can realize how these illusions are controlling their life. And they can truly step into personal power, their true purpose, which is what everyone wants, and to really live from a state of peace, regardless of what's happening inside or outside of them. And within the books, particularly this book, at the end of each chapter, I have the contemplations to take on so that you get to these realizations for yourself. But I also have special prayers at the end of each illusion, because the second book, Being, does have everything to do with being the change in this world. It has everything to do with us being that specific one that's willing to change enough internally to shift the outer world. I'd love to read the petition for presence, which had to do with the illusion of time, if you feel we have time for that.
Yes, we have the illusion of time.
Okay. Yes,
Guide me. You know, the song just sang guide me, right? So you just said guide me. So here we are guiding each other into this beautiful passage from your book. So please read.
Okay. Well, everyone take a deep breath.
Let's clear ourselves real quick. Put your hands together, everybody. Rub them really fast. Cover them with your eyes. Inhale. And exhale.
Yeah.
Let's really take this moment.
Dear infinite oneness, take us into your subtle moments, unveiling the secrets of time, awakening to essence, relaxing into the nuances of timelessness that rest between the skin and tissue of humankind. Streaming through ancestral veins flows the sweet agony of our inheritance, bone structures and bloodlines of our yesterdays and tomorrow. Create love out of our human suffering and our legacy of sorrows. Allow silence to reveal the richness of all that has been carried as it dissolves into neutrality, ending the saga between humanity and divinity in sacred marriage. Let this mixed pot of memory boil over with the broth of brotherhood and the savory sauce of sisterhood, as each soul is reconfigured into infinite expressions of light for greater good. Resounding throughout the universe, heavenly echoes of past creations Release the visceral memory residing within our bodies as we clamor in wait for salvation. Guide us, Great Spirit, beyond the veils that cloud our visions. Continue turning us back toward the caverns of the heart with the inclinations to stay inward. Reignite us as we traverse the hills and valleys of mortality. Create peace within us, unleashing the ancient callings of your infinite vitality. With your grace, purify this toxic lineage of time. With your blessing, free our self-imposed shackles of mind. Within our silence, awaken the bliss of equanimity. Allow what must become known to be embraced, owned, and absorbed lovingly. Let us feel the fluttering of our earthly wings softly emerge, that they tickle us with inspired action to fly upon winds of change as spirit birds. May they lift us weightlessly, so we rise to bandwidths unknown. Let us know without a shadow of doubt that we are home. Every single human being calling from near and far, incarnated souls sparkling and shining as the divine oneness that we are. In receiving this illusory gift of time, may we give ourselves the treasure of timelessness. So be it, and so it is.
And so it is. And so it is. Ashe, aho, amen. Let's do this. The illusions. The illusions, the illusions, the illusions. So the third illusion that derail personal power, purpose, and peace is?
The illusion of money. That's a big one, right? We're all hooked on money. We all want to know what that green stuff is and how to get more of it. And yet it is such an illusion.
Such an illusion to the point where cryptocurrency is nothing and it's valuable.
Exactly.
Oh, what are we doing to ourselves?
It has everything to do with our material obsessions. So the illusion of time was about emotional obsession. The illusion of duality was about secret obsessions. The illusion of money is about material obsessions. And it has everything to do with the whole of greed that is inside of us. We have to recultivate a new trust. We have to move from businessman to philanthropreneur. And that brings a whole new way of being into this world. And that comes through cultivating connections. But to do that, we have to heal thyself. And it calls for a petition of respect.
You know what's really fascinating is that a lot of this is patterns and pathologies. You know, things that we're taught and things that we observe and things that we cling on to that they might not necessarily ring true to who we are. And that's where we get uncomfortable. And that's why these books are so helpful, because if you're in that space of being uncomfortable, because what you're hearing is this is the shift, this is the change that I need, these are the books, Living, Being, Knowing, then please go right now and get these books, because this is what the stuff that's breaking those patterns and pathologies. You know, these are the shows that break them. You know, and that's why I love doing shows like this, because you're not your thoughts. You're not your past. We don't hold you hostage to where you were. We celebrate where you are now. So the illusion of money, I mean, that's just it's so, I laugh because it's just so true. You know, it's like everything is an illusion if we really just observe it through this kaleidoscope of life. So number 4, where are we in the illusions, in the 7 illusions that derail personal power, purpose, and peace?
We are with the illusion of hierarchy. And that has everything to do with personal obsession, because we look at the world from a state of hierarchy. It has everything to do with, who is known, who is not known, who has more followers than another person, who's famous or not, who's at the head of government, who's on top of the ladder. All of that illusion of hierarchy when we are all created equal. We are all creative divine capacity. Our souls are equivalent. It takes each and every one of us to compose the body of God. So there can be no hierarchy, but we have created one. We've created one in the educational system, in the monetary system, in the political system, in all these different arenas. We've created hierarchy. So we are here to move from that hole of envy, because that's what the illusion creates, is more and more envy inside of us, to a place of balance. And that means moving from the politician to the servant leader. Because when we are in hierarchy, we're each being a politician. We're trying to get what we need with our own agenda without really realizing that we have these hidden agendas. But when we are a servant leader, it is completely in service to ourselves and the other equally.
You know, it reminds me of the quote, "You're not a drop in the ocean, you are the entire ocean."
Yes.
Right? And we are together collectively the entire ocean. Illusion number 5.
Now, this one is the one that's going to trigger a lot of people when they read the
All
book.
right.
I'm just going to forewarn you.
You know what? I love the trigger because the trigger is what shakes the foundation. Let's shake the foundation.
This is the illusion of identity.
Mm.
And the trick of this illusion is we've all bought into the identity that we want to be, but what we don't realize is by buying into that identity, we create the other person being who they have to be. So before I say what I'm about to say, I'm going to say I celebrate all people for what they've decided to do. But I want you to consider the doctors need patients. So the intention and the identity of a doctor requires there to be sick people. The activists need something to fight for. So for you to be an activist, that means you have to have someone that is in need of your help. So there's this subconscious creative capacity where we are creating the oppressed while we're trying to be the freer of the oppressed.
That's just like the mind blowing right there for all of you tuning in who are like, wow. You know, keep going. I can't even talk about it. Yes.
Well, and it goes across
It's like
all
my
of us.
soul is standing ovations of a yes.
Well,
A
you know,
yes.
I
So
can't coach
huge.
people. Yeah, I can no longer coach people because I'm like, wow, for me to coach people means they are in need of something they don't have.
Yes.
And so I
And they
can't
have
be
everything.
hypocritical and do that anymore. And so we have to move from that place of seeing each other as identity and take off these masked obsessions. This is all about the mask of obsession. We have to get rid of our whole of pride, and we have to return to innocence, where we are really here as oneness. We're here as equality, and we move from homogenized people to genius. We let ourselves really tap into the spiritual genius that we have, rather than allowing these illusions to compound and tell us that we have to go find a career, an identity, or be somebody just to fit into this illusory world.
Yes, you know, Enigma sings, if you want, start to laugh, you must then start to cry. Be yourself. Don't hide. Just believe in destiny. Don't care what people say. Just follow your own way. The return to innocence. Following your own way is the return to innocence, is the return to self, is the return to who you are, is the return to the heart virtue, the passion, the purpose. Return to innocence. Illusion number 6.
Illusion number 6 is the illusion of evolution. We've been taught that we have to get somewhere. We have to find our voice. We have to be who we really are, that we as a species have evolved. The truth is, you are and have always been a cell of God. You are and have always been source. You are and have always been your highest capacity. You just haven't put your presence there.
I love it. And illusion number 7.
And the 7th illusion is the illusion of war. And that has everything to do with mental obsessions. We create war outside because we are at war inside. And this has everything to do with our global reflection of information and technology. And the first place that information and technology is what you alluded to before, Max, where you said we come from our pathologies. We have been loaded with information, encrypted with code and technology of who we think we are when we are not any of that. That is just the residue of old people's wounds and old stories and old histories. And that has created this hole of wrath within us, this undercurrent of rage that is held within each and every one of us, which is so much of the reason we see violence in the world. But we must return to purity. We must move from being revolutionary to becoming the spiritual rebel, where we take all energy and presence off of the problems, because even those have become the illusions, and we move simply into creativity and pure expression.
Wow.
Those
Wow,
last three
wow,
are going to be
wow.
harder for people to grasp onto,
Mhm.
but as they build upon the illusions and they start to do the work in the book and start to really realize their own awarenesses about how they've been conditioned, these will awaken within them as to how these illusions have really hampered their personal power, how they've
Mhm.
derailed them from the true purpose that their soul has wanted them to experience and express, and how if they will reach this level of peace around all of these things, that they will be able to emit a radiance and an energy that is greatly divine, far more divine than anything they could have tapped into prior.
Mm. Isn't this beautiful? Isn't this beautiful? All right. Well, illusion of time is upon us because we have 1 minute to wrap this up. And we still have to talk about the next book that you have, but that's not even available yet, is it?
That won't come out until December, so we'll wait.
December.
Maybe that'll be a New Year's show. How's that?
That's a pause. That is a beautiful pause to reflect on these two right now. This is a great place to be, from living to being. Pause in those moments. Before we run, what is it that you want people to take with them into this now moment?
These two books are powerful books in self-realization. They're not meant to be read quickly. I want you to only read a few lines or a paragraph a day. They work in tandem. So if you start reading a few lines of living in the morning, read a few lines of being at night. Self-realization is the greatest gift that we can give to our world. More we know ourselves, the cleaner and clearer our world will become. If we want to be true servants to our world, if we want to serve in the highest capacity to our humanity and our divinity, individually and collectively, then to engage in a personal practice of deep inner realization is the only key that will unlock the doors to the truth of who we really are.
Wow. I love that for this now moment. I love you for joining us here tonight and this morning, this afternoon, wherever anyone is tuning in from. Simran, it's been a pleasure having you on Max and Friends the last 2 episodes. I look forward to the third one when we have, and in between now and then, if you ever want to come back and hang out with us and just inspire, motivate, educate, take the shackles off our feet so we could dance. Join us. You're always welcome. The first time you're a friend, the second time you're family. So welcome to the circle of Max and Friends. I appreciate you so much.
Love to be with you anytime, Max. Thank you so much. And it's
Thank
great to be
you.
with your family.
And also, if there's anything ever you want to come and talk about from 1111 Magazine or the podcast, come and join us. We're here for you always. Together we rise. I want to leave you all with this. It's the song that I spoke about earlier, The Return to Innocence by Enigma. And the lyrics go, love, devotion, healing, emotion. Don't be afraid to be weak. Don't be too proud to be strong. Just look into your heart, my friend. That'll be the return to yourself, the return to innocence. And if you want, then start to laugh. And if you must, then start to cry. Be yourself, don't hide. Just believe in destiny. Don't care what people say. Just follow your own way. Don't give up and use the chance to return to innocence. That's not the beginning of the end. That's the return to yourself, the return to innocence. I love you all for tuning in. Until next time, smile, love, hug, tell someone you love them. Tell yourself you love yourself. Give yourself that hug that maybe you're longing for. And until next time, remember to take life to the max. I'm your host, Max Tucci from Max and Friends. Good night, good morning, good afternoon, and most importantly, good karma. I love you for tuning in.